And welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Football Show. We're not going to call this the weekly show. It's a little different. We're here with Mr. Rob DeArmond, our sports editor, to talk about Week 6 football action. It is Thursday afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Rob. How are you today?
I'm treading water. Is that a thing, treading water?
Yeah, I think it is. I think people still use that. So first, we're going to talk about last week's scores, then we're going to jump into, we don't like to call it the marquee matchup. Everybody's got a big game coming up this week, but we do have a little intra-parish action. Last week, it was Live Oak versus Walker. Live Oak won that contest 26-10. This week, it's Live Oak versus Denham Springs. Denham Springs loses to Zachary 44-14, and we're going to talk about all that in a minute. Albany did fall to Sumner 28-14. Springfield, in a weird Saturday game, pulls it out against Thomas Jefferson 23-22, and I know that was probably a fun game to cover, and we're going to get to that in a little bit, but some unfortunate news for the Bulldogs as well. Talk about that near the end of the show. First, Denham and Live Oak is going to be the big tilt this week. Some interesting videos out there on social media from the Denham Springs tailgating crew. Tell us a little bit about that first before we get into the content.
They've those guys have been doing them every week, for every game, just to try to get some, just to get people fired up and ready to go for Friday night. And I think that's their second one this week. And of course, there's a little bit more with this one with Brett Beard going back as the Denham coach to coach against Live Oak. Of course, he was there for 5 years. So there's a little bit more there, but in talking to the coaches, both of them, they just want to keep the focus on their teams, and that's where they are. For Denham, obviously, it's trying to get that first win under Coach Beard. And for Live Oak, it's just trying to build on that big win over Walker last week.
Right. So talking about, Denham's still trying to, while some of these other teams in Livingston Parish are really working on little things, trying to, finish plays and things of that nature, Denham's still looking for that identity. What did Coach Beard have to say about, having that loss to Zachary, which is, as people keep mentioning, probably one of the better Zachary teams in recent years. That's a tough loss. Big point differential, but saw some good things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading the story. You guys know I pull up my stories every week when we're doing this show, and I'm kind of reading just to make sure I focus on some points here. But he was really pleased with. They got a little more physical, is what he liked to see against Zachary, and he also, it's something we implore that he's playing with some young kids, and he said for them to handle that stage at Zachary, which can be intimidating in itself, he was pleased with the way they handled that. That being said, he'd still like them to get a little bit more physical coming through to it. But like you said, there's always something that you can build on. He said they're just going to keep grinding. The kids and the coaches will keep grinding and until they get it right, And
one of the things he discussed with you is this is kind of a segue point in the season, because you got 3 games left. And the question is, what are you going to do with them? You're going to challenge your kids, how has he kind of displayed that or explained that to the team?
The way we talked about it, he talked about it with David Gray. David Gray covered that game for us last week, and he said we got 3 games left. And the way he talked about it was he kind of challenged the seniors. He said, if you're a senior, I'm going to read this. If you're a senior that plays football, you're technically on the clock. If you guys are an athlete in high school and you get down to being a senior, that's pretty much what it is. He pretty much said, hey, this is it. So you've got a chance here. He basically said it's a 3-game season. You want to go 3-0, but realistically, you just make a 3-game season and see what you can do with each one of those chances.
So, and one of those calls he's had out to his team is to be more physical. Definitely established a culture of physicality up there at Live Oak, which Coach Westmoreland has taken and run with. And it's definitely come up on the defensive side of the ball. These guys pitching some shutouts and keeping these very good teams at low scoring points. Of course, held Walker to 10. We'll talk about Walker in a minute, but Live Oak coming into this game kind of understands Coach Beard, and what he brings to the table. A little bit of not concern, but they're cognizant of the fact that Denham is bringing plenty of talent to the table, and you've got to respect that.
Right, and that's what Coach Westmoreland said. He said, man, you can look at the record all you want, but you look at what they have coming in, and there is talent on this team. Obviously, they're not going to overlook any of that, but you also see that they're trying to figure out with Live Oak. You talked about that defense, and I think that's in I guess their wins. I was trying to figure out how many points they've given up, and it was I guess what 15 or was it? Let's see. I'm trying to think. I think my math is off here, but they've done I'll just say they've done a really good job in those wins. Holden Walker to 10, Kentwood was 6, and they got a shutout there too against Opelousas, if I remember correctly. So you guys do the math. That's why I write for a living. So yeah, but when Coach Westmoreland looks at it, he's seeing talent here from this crew, and I'm just trying to read here. I'm going through. That's why I was taking him. He said just because they haven't put a win on the board doesn't mean anything to us. You know, it goes back to we're focusing on what we do and doing that well.
Kind of almost the same thing as what Coach Beard said. You know, you got to take it one week at a time.
Yeah,
you've got a talented team coming through, and you got to play the game.
Right. He also Coach Westmoreland also kind of tipped his hat to Ryan Fournier, the offensive coordinator at Denham, just saying he's going to give you a lot to work on, a lot of formations, and he said he really liked the skill guys that Denham has. So that's going to be something for him too.
And you know, has any kind of resolution come to the quarterback? Not controversy, I guess you can say, but quarterback competition at Denham.
I didn't even ask. I know John McDaniel played last week. I didn't even ask because I know Coach Beard will just look at me and smile.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be like you guys, to be honest. When I get out there Friday, whoever's under center is going to be the guy under center, you know, and we'll go from there.
Right. So talking about teams that you know. We talked about Denham, who's still kind of looking for that identity over these last 3 games. Walker sort of establishing an identity of where they're going to come punch you in the face. Walker is still looking to finish that identity. You know, maybe establishing a few pieces, but, you know, they're going to host Central this week. They had that 26-10 setback against Live Oak. You know, and Coach Mahaffey kind of looking at a lot of these things and saying, you know, it seemed to me when we were talking during pre-production, the best way to put it is we're right there. Yeah. There's just these little, we're just not quite finishing what we're looking at. So tell us a little bit about, you know, you were there for Live Oak and Walker, and there were a few things you saw that were kind of like, I mean, you know, so close, but just not quite pulling the pieces together.
You see, and we didn't mention this for Live Oak, but they held Live Oak defense held Brian Thomas without a catch last week in that game, and I don't remember the last time that's happened. You know, he's had some big plays and things like that, but that's what they were able to do. And talking with Coach Mahaffey, it's just like we need to find consistency, you know. But he said, no doubt we're in a funk, but there's opportunities they're not cashing on. But it's also small things, which is what they're focusing on this week coming into Central. I'll read this quote. He said it might be one step wrong or this a couple feet off on a couple throw or something like that. And that's the general gist of the quote. But that goes to show you that those little things, he just said little things can add up, especially when you're playing the teams you're playing.
Right. And this week, going to be facing another pretty physical team in Central, you know, and kind of what we talked about, you know, what you're getting with Central, you know, what's the Alabama phrase? Run the ball. They're going to run it. Yeah. So, you know, Walker's going to have to step up on defense, but also looking to pull those pieces together. You know, all the little things maybe translates into a win if you can pull it together on the offensive side of the ball.
Right. It's and when you look at what they're able to do, he just spoke really highly of them. And they got down. Central got down and basically was turned away on a fourth and goal in the 16-8 loss to Scotlandville. So, and you guys know how many points Scotlandville was putting up coming into that game. So to hold them down is a pretty big accomplishment for that defense. So it's one of those things where just a solid football team in Central, where when you just look at them on team, on film and you know what's coming, you just have to stop it. That's cut and dry.
Right. And that's going to be the point of the game. I guess you can say there's not really much else to say. Cleaning up those little mistakes.
And you've got the run game as well. He mentioned Jonathan Swift, the quarterback at Central. He's also, it's not just passing. He's also a big part in the run game. And he said what they do a good job of doing is using the entire, width of the field. So it's not like you're just, if they can find an edge, they'll take that edge and try to use the whole field. So he said that's part of the challenge in stopping that run game.
Right. So talking about tough losses, moving over east into the Albany area, Albany lost to Sumner 28-14 last Friday. But one of the things that Coach Janis said about their loss is that he can appreciate what the team's learning from it and the attitude they're bringing into the new week. So tell us a little bit about that Sumner game, what kind of went wrong for the Hornets, but what they'll also be facing on a big stage this week. They're going to be playing at Strawberry against Laranja.
When you look at that Sumner game, Albany held the lead at half, and Coach Janis said Sumner came out and they did the ball control deal similar to what Live Oak does, tries to play keep away. If I remember correctly, he told me they ran 4 plays in the third quarter, which goes to if you don't have the ball, you can't score. I mean, right. It's that simple. And he said that's basically what happened to him. At the same time, that Sumner's a good team, which leading into this week is something that he kind of harped on where, in the loss to Pearl River, he said maybe it took our guys a couple days when we came back from practice or to practice. It was kind of like, hey, maybe we thought we were going to win that game and we went in and we didn't do it. And he said this week it's kind of like they realized Sumner's a good football team, but hey, we're pretty good too. So, let's kind of, he said Monday and Tuesday's practices were really good in terms of the energy that they were bringing out there. So it may be like, our Otha story, it may be like they're kind of, you see a little growth there in that aspect.
And going to need that growth because even, you kind of talked about going to Zachary and it being intimidating. Going into Strawberry Stadium, when you're used to kind of your 3A type stadiums can be a little intimidating. It's a different atmosphere, bigger stadium. I'm guessing they're doing that for COVID type restrictions.
It's Southeastern's they've done it, I believe, every weekend. They've hosted games every weekend in different schools, and I guess for them they're not playing football this fall, so this is a kind of a way to pick that up. They've kind of invited schools to use the facilities, and I think that's what they're doing, trying to do it. Another aspect is there's turf there, and in a lot of schools are saying, hey, I'm used to playing on grass. That turf can be a little bit different, so that's another adjustment that both of these teams are going to have to make.
So, and the Wolves, correct? Laranja, a 1-win team, but kind of like Denham and Live Oak, Coach Janis expressing we can't overlook these guys. I think you said it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Laranja came in as a 1-win team, took Albany to the brink and beat them in overtime.
He made a point to stress that to his team. Don't look at the record. We know what they can do. He also looked at the schedule. They're coming off a 34-13 loss to John F. Kennedy. He's a pretty good ball team, and he also the other losses are to Salmon and Sumner, which are two really good teams as well. So he kept that in mind too. But he's just kind of saying, be ready for it. And they've got a good running back, Bryce Vick, who's been there. I think he's a junior. Seems like he's been in there a while. And he said they're making the adjustments, to try to find out what's going to work for them. But they're focused kind of on that run game because they can go. He said they can run really well downhill. So going to be a physical contest for Albany. So a lot of physical. You're going to see some physical football this weekend if you're watching Livingston Parish teams. Now, unfortunately for the Bulldogs, you're not going to see any football this weekend or next with a COVID positive test. We don't know how many, but we do know that football activities are shut down. Will be shut down for at least 2 weeks. Crazy win
over Thomas Jefferson, 23-22. So let's talk about that for a bit, and then we'll kind of wrap it up here. We'll go ahead and say we know the next 2 weekends they'll be shut down. Looks like it'll be that Wednesday of the last week when they'll be ready to play. Of course, they're supposed to play on Thursday of that week, so there is concern that this may be the end. We're not committing to that, obviously, but for safety concerns, this is a tough break for Springfield.
When I talked to Coach Surpass and Spencer Harris, the principal, this happened. It was late. I found out late Tuesday night that this was happening, and of course we wanted to get it out to our readers just to let them know, hey, this is going on. Unfortunately, this is what we're dealing with, and you hate to say it, but you kind of go, it's not a matter of if, it's when. And but when I talked to Spencer, he just kind of said when he laid that scenario you just laid out, their last game, they picked it up for Thursdays, North Lake Christian, and so if you look at it from a safety standpoint, where you're not playing for 2 weeks and then you come back and you really only got 1 day to practice to play a game, Spencer said it's not really about a football thing. It's more about a safety thing in that regard. So we'll keep you posted. We kind of don't know what's going to happen at this point, but I'm going to stay in touch with Coach Surpass and Spencer Harris, and we'll keep you posted and let you know what's happening. But like I said, it's at least for the next 2 weeks, it was going to be next week was going to be St. Thomas Aquinas. For him. That was supposed to be at Strawberry Stadium as well.
So never really got to get into district.
Right. And this is literally, Coach Surpass and I talked about it Tuesday about starting district. And then by that evening, we're not playing. Yeah. And so, like I said, welcome to where we are. And it's happening all over the state. It's not just here. So, you don't want to say you feel left out of the party, but you hate for it to happen to anybody,
Sure. So we will be keeping y'all informed, you viewers and listeners, over the next couple of weeks as we learn more about, what Springfield decides to do and what Northlake decides to do as well. Maybe they'll try to flex to a Saturday game. Springfield just played a Saturday game. Try to get it in. We shall see. I'm sure that the district itself is going to have a conversation about that, because it's going to be strange for Springfield to be out 2 and then try to jump in for a third. Do you believe that'll play a? They're
not forfeits. It just counts as a canceled game. And Ryan made sure to point that out, just to make sure people know, hey, we're not giving up a win here. We're not giving up a loss. It's just a canceled game. It's just going to be interesting because we've talked about that in the past. It's a 3-team district or 3-game district. And so what does it do? Those are questions I think in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have to kind of sort out and see what's going on.
Right. And we did have, I don't know if you saw, we had a question. This was several weeks ago and I kept forgetting about it. We had some people asking about, just a 3-team district. Why? It's important to remember that in winter and spring sports, it's a 5-team district because you put in Doyle and French Settlement. They just don't have football teams.
Also, what happened too is that district featured Amite and Independence at one time, and basically what happened was that district for football split up.
Right,
is what happened, and you wound up with Springfield with Pope John Paul, wound up with Pope John Paul, St. Thomas, and Northlake, and then Independence is with Amite and St. Helena on that side of the district. So that happened, I guess, beginning last year. Right. So if y'all remember that, that's what happened. It was a really large district to where I think they'd only play 2 or 3 pre-district games, and then the rest of it would be district. So they started looking at it and said, let's try to divide this up a little bit.
Right. Well, just wanted to for those who, and hopefully that person is watching or listening, that's what's going on there. So as Mr. DeArmond said, there was some teams added, and then the district got real big and they kind of split it up. But remember, there are 2 Livingston Parish teams, Doyle and French Settlement, that do not play football, but jump into the action when it's basketball and baseball, softball time. And of course, among other sports.
Among others, right. Exactly.
At any rate, tough to kind of end the season. Maybe not. Might have one more game, but to have a 2-game break right here after a big win over Thomas Jefferson 23-22.
That is probably the biggest thing out of the whole deal is Coach Surpass is saying we can see it if things start hitting and they're working right, they're doing well, and to get this win over Thomas Jefferson at home, and in the way they won it, they were able to shut Thomas Jefferson out in the second half. They come down, get the go-ahead touchdown, get the extra point, and Thomas Jefferson driving. And I'll just go, what happens is Brendan Allen gets called for a face mask on this drive. So that's 15. Then he gets hit with an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which is another 15. Puts him right on the verge of maybe being able to kick a field goal, which would have given him the win. Instead, Springfield's defense comes up, and on fourth down, Brendan Allen goes from, I guess, the GOAT to the hero. He gets an interception on the last play to seal the win for him. So he had 2 interceptions in that game and a touchdown catch.
Well, I mean, that's what leaders do, right? I mean, so everybody's going to make mistakes. You got to pop back, make the play.
That was, and he was really complimentary of it. Because I just told, I said, man, you went from the GOAT to the hero really quick right there. And he was really complimentary of his team. After that situation, they just said, hey, man, you got this. It's going to be okay. We're going to be all right. And he tipped his hat to his teammates, just trying to get him through, that situation.
Well, and again, Springfield will be out of action the next 2 weekends. We will keep you all informed as to what the district and what the teams are able to work out for that last week. Walking through these games again, Denham is traveling to Live Oak. That's going to be sort of the big matchup this week. Walker is hosting Central, and Albany is playing Lauranja at Strawberry Stadium. Last week's scores: Live Oak 26, Walker 10, Denham 14, Zachary 44, Albany 14, Sumner 28, and Springfield 23, Thomas Jefferson 22. One last time, we want to thank our sports editor, Mr. Rob DeArmond, for staying up to date with all this football stuff and joining us here on this Thursday afternoon. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And one last time, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us for the Livingston Parish football show. This is week 6. We are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We do hope you guys enjoy the football action this week, and we will be back with you next week to talk about the results and what's coming up as we roll the season to a close. We'll have 2 more weeks next week. Talk to you then.